guy, so I'd just like to say I'd like to introduce you to my big brother, Mr. Barry Crimmins.
So I'll just start it off with a couple questions, and then we'll open it up. I want to start. So I saw this film last night, and the first thing that struck me, like kind of like in the first 10 minutes, is like, wow, he shot this to be seen on a big screen. This isn't like, it didn't seem like it was meant to be like shot for like HBO, and even though there's all this great archival footage that's 3x4, but the interviews are really cinematic, and you know, in the tracking shots in the church. And I was wondering if you could talk about you know, those decisions in terms of like how to shoot the film.
Oh, well, thanks. That hasn't been pointed out yet, so thank you. It was, you know, I feel like now in this day and age, you know, that making a documentary is fairly accessible to everybody, and that my goal with my cinematographer Bradley Stonecipher was to make a movie that did look like a movie instead of just a doc that was done post the events. And plus, it's you know the camera loves Barry. You know, you wanna shoot that beautifully. You know, it's like having Clooney, and then not filming it beautifully. You know, it'd be a disgrace. But no, yeah, it was a goal to try to make it be a you know, I watch a lot of docs, and that was the challenge. You know.
So along, like I think 10 years ago, I was in this director's lab with the filmmaker Allison Anders, and she made this film, Things Behind the Sun. It was about, you know, her, she was raped as a teenager, and she made this film that was based on that, and shot scenes in the house where that assault took place. I was like, I've never seen anything like that. I'm never going to see anything like that again until this film. And I was wondering, were you ever tempted to end the film? You know, he says, "Call me lucky," and then walks off. Was there ever a temptation to end it there? And if there was, what was the decision to add sort of another sequence to it and end the film in a different way?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was tempted to end it where he says it's just a basement, you know. But you know, the thing about Barry is he really is so brilliant that, and so you know, so articulate, and it couldn't. I would have been throwing out the name of the movie, first of all, but I'd be throwing out so much positive, wonderful stuff he says, you know, and structurally I kind of knew what I thought the movie would be, but it was really awesome in the interviews. Like, I wouldn't know where sometimes he would give me stuff that fit in, or I never expected. So it was really cool. You know, I didn't know what we were going to get on a given day, and I've known Barry for 30 years.
36 years.
36 years. All right. I feel like I'm hogging the mic.
No one's asked me anything.
Oh, okay.
My next question. Barry, I did not know the story of you and AOL. And first of all, it's a category of bravery that I've never even thought existed before. What you did, I think it's I'm speechless. And I think you were at sort of the beginning of a conversation that's we're still sort of grappling with the internet. Like, the Silk Road story is sort of like big in the news right now, and I don't really have a question. I almost want to sort of like leave it up to sort of kind of where we're at right now with these issues of, we have this open internet, but that also brings other issues.
Well, as hyper-vigilant as I can be, I felt like in that year I put in my kind of time on that committee, and because no one else was seemingly doing anything then. So, I sounded the alarm, and, people can sort of make up their own minds about stuff, and it gets past a certain point where, victims shouldn't be judges or on the jury or whatever, but I just want people to know what was going on. And as far as bravery is concerned, I'm actually a coward because I'm afraid to live with myself if I know I didn't do what I should have done. So it's really just like, I'd rather risk the world's disdain than be guaranteed in my own self-loathing. So I'm just a coward, really.
Why don't you hold on to it?
No, that's all right.
The questions aren't going to be for me.
Oh, sure. Hi. Do you have any questions?
Well, I don't think anybody's going to blame you guys for selling out. That was a wonderful movie. I think nowadays some of the problem with people is how to make a difference, and some people are just naturally empowered that way. So I thank you for your commitment to the screen and showing us all a little bit of something being done. That was really nice to see. It wasn't what I was ready for, but it's nice to be in the same
Me either.
with a couple of artists. Well, obviously that's a very deep presentation, and I'm nervous just standing here being a nobody, but
if the movie's about anything, it's about how much everybody is of value from the very beginning of their lives. And in fact, if we caught on to that, there'd be a lot, people feel, if you're raised, if your heart and your mind are in sync, I think that when we're not at peace, it's when our mind and heart conflict, and stuff happens to kids. Nobody takes the rap. Kids end up thinking, well, there's something, at first they think there's something wrong, and then no one's saying anything about it or giving them any sort of out from it, and after a while it becomes, something's wrong with me. And then you develop self-loathing, and then you behave in a fashion where you're self-loathing, where you behave in a fashion that corroborates that self-loathing, and now, all kinds of other problems and behavior stems from that. So if we start early, that I just think that, children, so that's why I think children's rights and safety are so important. But you're really important, man, and I'm really thankful that you came here and you sat down and you watched this, and then you had such a kind thing to say to me, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
One of the things in making the movie that I didn't know about Barry was how much he did on a personal level for his neighbors, and it's really a big relief when you're making a movie about one of your dearest friends and you start poking around his life and you find out that he's actually a better man than you imagined. Because it could have went horrible if I went the other side. I would have had a really bad movie on my hands. But I just kept finding out all these, and it was key to me to put that in, not because I wanted to heap more praise on Barry, but I kind of wanted to give an example about stuff that I can do in my life on a small basis to, not everybody has the ability or the access to get to the Senate floor and change things, but we all, or I have the ability to help my neighbors, so that was key to me to put that in the movie.
I'd just like to ask Barry a sort of theoretical question. The American documentary tradition, is sort of like 60 Minutes. You get 3 issues, one after another. Tonight's issue is child pornography. Tomorrow it's the refugees in Syria. The next day it's hunger. The next day it's water pollution. The next day it's asbestos. It seems to me that in watching Barry's comedy routines, he might subscribe to what I saw in sort of in Cuban documentaries, where everything is really related to capitalism and the quest for money. And I sort of saw that in the testimony of the AOL guy. You know, they're willing to tolerate anything if they can get a buck out of it. And I wonder what you think of the idea of tying this to a larger concept.
Well, you know,
It's a tough.
I think that, well, I have an answer. There's a, you know, I try not to, you know, although everything's political, you know, I mean, I get called a political comic because my politics progress. There's all these comics that do stuff that are misogynist and whatever, they reinforce, you know, oppressive status quo, and they're just part of the fun, and they don't get called political, but we're both political, you know, everybody's political. But with this, I mean, you know, I mean, I try not, like lately when this Hastert stuff came up, a lot of people are going, well, it's the Republicans, that, and it's just like, no, you know, and I'll get to capitalism in a minute, believe me, but, you know, it's something that we should all be able to agree upon, and that is that, you know, children have a right to develop, you know, into their, find this world and discover it in their own time and in their own way with, you know, both guidance and kindness, and with certain, you know, certain things available to them that they should have, like shelter, a safe place to live, or whatever. And now you're starting to get into capitalism, and we are, you know, and when things go bad, kids are the first ones to, you know, really suffer. You know, they're down to, no one can hear them or whatever. And so any kind of society that would pay better attention to how kids really feel would be fine with me. I haven't seen a lot of Cuban documentaries. When I was in Nicaragua, Credico said my Spanish is so bad they think I'm with the U.S. Embassy. So, but I mean, I really do think that the, you know, the abuses of capitalism, with this sort of late stage capitalism, basically they're running out of people to fuck over, and so now we have to figure out where else we're going to go, because, you know, I mean, it's just all this stuff like this trade thing they're trying to push through. I mean, you know, it's got nothing to do with, they talk about free trade, you know, and that means, you know, corporations can do whatever they want, move money around, and not exist in the nation, but just wherever the money is, they can go wherever they want, do whatever they want. But it puts up more borders, and it creates more damage for people. You know, you screw over all the workers in the world, their kids don't eat as well. And then their parents are freaked out, bummed out, and can get angry, you know, drink, whatever happens. So, you know, surely economic injustice impacts children, and whereas I'm, you know, I mean, I'm, like I say, I'm a, you know, I'm a socialist, but I'm not a commie because I could never take the meetings. I don't do well at them, but you know, I mean, certainly the economic injustice, if it were addressed more squarely, you know, there would be a lot of kids in a lot better shape. But kids are also seriously abused in mansions. So, you know, I've met a lot of them. I mean, it's amazing when you disclose publicly, as I did over 20 years ago, the anecdotal information that I have. Everybody tells me, oh, I mean, or an awful lot of people tell me what's happened to them. And there's no sort of like, oh, you're from that kind of town, or you're from a mill town, or you're from here. It crosses everything. So I think economic injustice certainly has a horrid impact on children. In fact, you know, causing many of them to die as infants, for starters. You know, that's the first thing we should look at. But but when you get to just plain old child abuse, it's everywhere. And if we get distracted in this sort of American thing where everything's a pennant race and it's either or, you know, and you dogmatically defend this and you dogmatically, so something happens and then you're like, oh, and now I have an opinion on child abuse because Dennis Hastert was involved. Well, like, who gives a shit? You know, what matters is you should care about it all the time, and if you can learn something from the Hastert thing, or you can kind of go, wow, you know, He's a public school, he's a teacher forever, and he's ran the Boy Scouts. By the way, how they're still in business is beyond me, but that's another